A hate crime is any criminal offense which is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice towards a person based on their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or gender identity. Hate crime can fall into three main areas: physical assault, verbal abuse, and incitement to hatred. A hate incident is any incident that the victim thinks is based on someone's prejudice towards them because of their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or gender identity. Not all hate incidents will amount to criminal offences.
So I went through horrific racism in my development with neighbours. We moved to Dorridge after fleeing domestic violence from London, so we were already quite shaky, and we were relocated to Nolan Dorridge. And as soon as we got there, we've had horrific racism. So they put my daughters into a school, and they had to get a school bus. And for 3 months, whilst they were on the school bus, the driver and the chaperone singled them out as the only black children, and a seat was always left empty by my children for any of the naughty children who were non-blacks to be put next to them as punishment. All the children were taught a song by the driver and the chaperone saying that my mum looks like Tutankhamun, a black baboon. They sung it every day, and I didn't know anything was going on until my daughter came home and she had removed 4 of her teeth. We had racism in the neighbourhood from the children. They would come into our house, into our garden, and call us niggers. It escalated into school because it was the same school children from the bus, and it's been a living nightmare for 6 years. So we've had a lot of counselling. We've done 4 years of counselling with Solar. They have been fantastic. I can definitely say, without a shadow of a doubt, me and my children would not have got through this without Remedi for Racism. I think I'm not even going to beat around the bush. Maya was suicidal. She's 15 now, and we've been with you guys nearly 2 years. And I've got a wholesome, hearty house now, and we have, with Kat and with Katie and Kat, we've learned to push back, and we feel safe. All the security alarms, I think I have one in my bag now. Just the words, the nurturing, the support, knowing that you guys were there. We always, at the end of a phone call, knowing that Remedi for Racism was also linked to the police and the crime commissioners. Whenever I was challenged and I says, oh, Remedi for Racism, and they would be like, well, who's that? And I said, well, they're funded by crime commissioners, at Lloyd's house. And then everybody would, sit up then, and the racism stopped. So I think the first thing that both Kat and Katie did was just to provide their presence. And the presence on my road, when those cars pulled up, or when Kat would walk down, or whenever, just by them seeing somebody with a tag and authority, and they walk so proud when they come in and ready to take it on, it made their cowards, so they stepped back. And then for my children, knowing that Katie was on Teams, available by call or just there, it gave them their voice. And the support from Katie throughout the court case, we had a court hearing, I managed to get an injunction, take them to court, and just the presence there, it made me feel like I could move mountains. So coming back from London, I'm 51 this year, and it's been a really big shake-up for me, because London is Cosmo. You do what you want, you wear what you want, and you go where you want at whatever time. You can wake up in the morning eating a Lebanese Danish and go to bed the night eating Nigerian rice. There's no if, buts or maybe. So coming back home, I feel like, and this is home to me, I feel like I've gone back to 1985 when I lived in King's Standing running from National Front. I think it's awful. I think it's disgusting, and I think it's getting worse. It's done to instill fear. Where I live, they don't want black people there, they don't want Asian people there, and they don't want Chinese people there. And so they will do whatever they can to make us feel uncomfortable, because they feel that with time we'll get fed up and move, while they backed on the wrong horse with me. I think that it needs to be a crime. No if, buts or maybe. You do it, you say it, there's evidence. It's a crime. I think it should be treated like, I think you should receive the same punishment as if you can get fined and imprisoned for spitting, harassment. It is a form of harassment, and this is the thing. When it comes to hate crime, I've realised in the school, it's not in the policies. So what is this? It's racism. Oh, it's harassment. Well, what part of it is harassment? You know, oh, it's harassment of this. Well, no, you go to the doctors. Well, we don't know where that fits in this. This hate crime has got nowhere. It just bounces around, and the excuse people say is, oh, well, you know, we've been saying it for, or as my neighbour says to me, you are niggers. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So when you ask the question, hate crime, I don't even think people understand what it is.
Well, it was on behalf of my other half. He lives alone. He's got a brain tumour and he's registered blind. And basically, he's been having a lot of ASB through noise. A police was involved because he got to the point where he'd asked them to turn the music down and keep it at a low level because they're drinking all the time, and basically laughed in his face. And then he literally tried to stop them from shutting the door on him. And that's where it all escalated. She set about him, which he didn't know it was happening because he's blind. The partner joined in. Police was involved because obviously he had lots of cuts and blah, 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 blah. But because it was his word against hers, you know, and this is where I got in touch with Remedi because of his brain tumour and things. They were saying that it's all fake and he's making everything up. He felt for his safety. He didn't want to go back. He was actually trying to recover when everything happened last year. The way it impacts people, they might not see it as a hate crime, but if someone's telling you that you're making your illnesses up and your disabilities, do you know what I mean? And telling someone that a brain tumour's fake, imagine the impact that's having on that person. Ariana's been absolutely brilliant. She came out and seen him, met him face to face, asked him exactly what was going on. She's mentioned loads of things about like alarms and things which we've actually ordered, and just somebody to speak to him who actually understood him and, you know, didn't call him a liar and actually believed everything that's been going on. Do you know what I mean?
Part of my role is connecting and building with local communities, and also working with young families in the early help side of things. I've been in this role now for about 5 years, and one of the key portfolios of my role is hate crime, connecting with communities. An officer on my team, PC Declan Kinsella, is our hate crime SPOC, Pacific Point of Contact. So he will link in with our colleagues in the investigation departments and local neighbourhoods to ensure that we are giving victims of hate crime a gold star service. In terms of what I've seen from police officers, that is unfortunately quite common for BME colleagues. I know certainly going back to last year, sort of in December, and I looked at crimes, and there was about 10 incidents over a 2-month period where officers have been subject to racial abuse. Most of those were Asian officers. But of course, you know, it's dealt with positively, because the big issue going back to probably 90s and late and early 2000s was the retention of ethnic minority officers, because they're subject to a lot of sort of, you know, hate and racial abuse, and it's ensuring that as an organisation, obviously we do, you know, do the right thing. We look after our colleagues because, and obviously, you know, and deal with matters appropriately. Important to understand different cultures within our local communities, different cultures that officers have, and we do receive quite a great, a lot of training in understanding different cultures, but it's also having that relationship with our colleagues that are suffering from hate crimes, understanding the impact it's having on them, and if it's affecting them in their their daily job and within their own communities. So that's really important to give that support. We obviously do have a number of associations within the police service. We have an LGBTQ plus association. We have the Black Police Association, Muslim Police Association, Christian. There's lots of different ones where there's support for. We feel like every sort of aspect of somebody's needs and the different cultures we have from the staff and the officers that we recruit within West Midlands Police. Remedi, I find, have been really helpful, really supportive to hate crime colleagues, because obviously you can do that follow-up work, those follow-up interventions, and making victims feel valued and supported, which obviously impacts well on West Midlands Police. And so we really appreciate that follow-up support that you do, because obviously as police officers we deal with a number of incidents where we will do what we can in terms of a service. We're not always there necessarily to deal with the aftermath and the longer term effects that victims of hate crime will suffer. So obviously you're a really important partner agency to work with to support our victims.
So prior to coming to work for Remedi, I worked for West Midlands Police for a long time. I knew bits and bobs about hate crime, but it wasn't anything really that was on my radar. But since coming to work for Remedi, it's really opened my eyes. People are really unkind, and there's a lot of hate crime in every area of the West Midlands. It's not targeted just to one area in particular. It's rife. I wanted to make a difference to somebody's life, somebody who wasn't being heard, somebody who hadn't got an advocate for them, somebody who couldn't speak for themselves and be heard. I wanted to, and still now, I'm so passionate about making wrong right for people and making their experience with the police and outside agencies a more positive experience. So it takes a while to get trust and confidence with people, because a lot of the time they've been let down by previous organisations and professionals. So I work hard to get a good rapport with them, and I lay out from the start to the finish how our timeline's going to be. So at no point are they thinking, well, we haven't done this or we haven't done that. We do an evaluation at the end to find out that they're happy and that things have gone their way. And 9 times out of 10, I can't say every time, 9 times out of 10, as long as we've made progress and things have changed, then people are happy. But it's a very fulfilling job, it's rewarding, and I definitely make a difference every day. Fight for what's right. Go to follow any piece of advice that you're given, do what you can, and don't give up. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
I was out and about. I felt like I was minding my own business. I was going to the shop and I was walking only a few hundred yards to the shop, and I saw a young man on a bike heading towards me, and he called me a name that I really found offensive and carried on riding his bike. And I thought to myself, I could take it or leave it, but by chance there was a police officer sitting in a car across the road at the petrol station, and I took the opportunity to go over, open his car door and just got in and told him how I was feeling, told him what had happened. He was very good with his response. He said that they've been working in the local schools around hate crime, particularly racial hate, and that he would take this into the schools and be a bit more forceful in terms of the way that they would deal with it in the future. And I gave him some examples of other situations that I heard of in that area, particularly to do with young people, and that I felt that we needed to start younger and getting that message out, because sometimes it's not necessarily those young people where it starts from. And as adults, we all need to take an educated guess at helping other people to feel that they belong. I got in touch with, I think he gave me some information. He said that he would report it, and then I got a call asking me if I wanted some support from Remedi. I didn't know they existed. I was like, I don't need any support. Then after a while I thought about it and I thought, this is part of the problem. If we don't report things and we don't get support, it feels like the services are not required, and then people can say it doesn't happen around here. And so I thought I'd go ahead with it, and the support was really good. I had some telephone calls and I had some talking sessions, talked about my emotions, talked about unpacking what happened. We talked about how that was making me feel, and we talked about the fact that there was opportunities to put things in place, particularly from my own experience as well, and my lived experiences, to make a difference. I don't come across it very often because there's covert and there's overt. Overtly, when I was younger, it was in my face all the time. Even my friends would turn on me and they'd call me all kinds of names, and then they'd be my friend again next week, but it makes you cautious. So when I was younger, it was more overt, and as time's gone by, I don't come across it that often, but obviously I come across scenarios where it's happened to people or I see it happening, but not as much as it used to. And I think that we can call it covert, it still exists, but I think it exists in pockets, and I think it tends to exist with young people sometimes when somebody gets wound up and they just pick on your vulnerabilities, and that can be that you're wearing glasses or you've got freckles, or there's something about you, your size. Young people can be like that, but I think where young people are concerned, younger, and children are concerned, I think that it's an opportunity to try and get there early. And to be honest, most of the children that I see, they're more accepting, and they don't tend to use that as a vulnerability, as a weakness. So it just depends where you are, but we're about educating people, and we should be using our experiences to educate, because people come in all different forms. It's because, particularly BAME communities, we've lived with it so long, we've got apathy, and we tend not to want to, we don't want to report it. We tend not to report it because we don't think anybody does anything about it, and it's just wasting our time. The more that people report is the more that we can see the impact, and also look at the hotspots where it actually does happen and try and do something within those areas. But it's getting the confidence to people back, especially when people report and they feel like there's no outcome or they don't hear anything back. It just makes you feel like it's a waste of time. I'd say report it, because from me reporting, I know that there's been some off-spins and they've been really positive, and that's informing the future and impacting. I'm about building legacy, and I want to leave some legacy. And some people say, oh, you sold out when I spoke to the police. But in reality, speaking gives you some power, and knowledge is power. And if I can inform and make a difference, and I'm just one person, just imagine if we all did that and we put ourselves forward to make that difference as well.
So I've done criminology and psychology at uni. I've always been interested in victim support, and because hate crime's on the rise, I think it was nice to kind of see that side of support and actually see what people go through, because I don't think I realised how often it happens, and I think this job has really helped to show me how often that happens. So I'm the triage worker, so I do the initial calls when we get the referrals to try and assess what support they're looking for. And then I'm also one of the support workers as well. So I offer that emotional support. It could be a support plan, so it could be looking at some different coping strategies and different coping mechanisms, trying to help them feel more empowered and kind of move on from what's happened. And if it happens again, they've kind of got the tools to be able to cope with it again. And then that practical support as well, so helping them liaise with the police, getting updates and with housing, etc. So from the very beginning, some people might be very shy, they could be quite upset about what's happened, which is obviously understandable. Some people might even be fearful to leave the house. But I've worked with people that, you know, they build up their confidence to be able to leave, to not feel like they're constantly looking over their shoulder and expecting something to happen. Not to be afraid to report it, and if you do need the help, then do access it, because it is there. It's just a case of accessing it. So, yeah.
Our team will work with you to assess your needs following a hate crime or incident and build a support plan with you to address these needs, helping you to cope and recover. If you have been a victim of hate crime and require confidential and free support, Remedi provides a hate crime victim service in the West Midlands. The service offers emotional and practical support to victims of any hate crime, regardless of when the incident happened or if it has been reported to the police. Our service also offers signposting and/or referrals to other agencies if needed. Please contact us on our free phone number 0800 488 0894 or send us an email on hatecrimevictimservice@remediuk.org. You can report a hate crime by reporting it to the police, either calling 101 or use the live chat on the West Midlands Police website for non-emergencies, or call 999 for emergencies. You can also go to one of Sandwell's hate crime third-party reporting centres or use True Vision or Crime Stoppers websites to report a hate crime.